Hello, in this video we are going to discuss about the position of a minor in a contract. So as we already know that a minor is not competent to contract, as per section 11 of the Indian Contract Act 1872. Every person is competent to contract who is of the age of the majority according to the law to which he is subject, and who is of sound mind and is not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject. So a minor is not competent to contract as per this section. So who is a minor? The question which arises is who is a minor, and from which act or from which legislation we will get an idea of who is a minor. So let me tell you that Section 3 of the Indian Majority Act 1875 provides that a person is a minor who has not completed the age of 18 years. Means all the persons who have completed the age of 18 years are considered to be the major under the Indian Majority Act. So let's talk about the nature of minors agreement. In Mohari Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh, this is a very famous case. If we talk about the condition before this case, then the condition was not clear as to whether a minors agreement will be void or voidable. But after the coming of this case, Mohari Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh, it was declared that an agreement with a minor is void. You cannot make a contract with a minor. So let me tell you the facts of this case in very brief. Actually, in this case, the plaintiff was a person who has got some money, who has mortgaged his property and has got some loan on that mortgaged property. So in this case, the plaintiff just sued the defendant, with whom he has kept his property mortgage, for the cancellation of his mortgage, because he contended that as a contract with a minor is void, then the mortgage should be cancelled. Okay, so in this case, the mortgage was cancelled, and it was held that minors agreement are absolutely void. They are void ab initio. So if we talk about the ratification of minors can ratify a contract. So the answer is no. A minor cannot ratify his agreement after attaining majority, because it does not form a good consideration. A consideration given during the minority is not a good consideration for a subsequent promise which is made during the majority of a minor. It has been held in Suraj Narayan versus Sukhi Ahir. Allahabad High Court held that a person cannot ratify an agreement made during minority after attaining majority. So let us talk about the estoppel, whether the law of estoppel apply against the minor or not. So the law of estoppel does not apply. So law of estoppel has been defined in section 115 of the Indian Evidence Act, which provides that if a person has said something in the past, then neither he nor his representative shall be allowed to deny it in the future. Okay, if you have made a statement today that the horse is sound, then you cannot deny any statement afterwards that you haven't made this statement, you have never made this statement. So this is called the law of estoppel. So let's check whether law of estoppel apply against the minor or of mm, estoppel does not apply against a minor. So if we talk about whether the minor is bound or is obliged to return the benefit received by any such agreement, then we have to go to the case of Leslie versus Shale. In this case, this is the case of common law. In this case, it was held that a minor can be made liable to return those property which can be traced, like the property, okay, tangible or intangible property, but he cannot be made liable to return the money, because money cannot be traced, and we cannot have a clear idea whether the money which the minor has the same money which he has taken from that agreement or not. If we talk about the Indian position in this regard, then there are two views of one views of Lahore High Court and the other views of Allahabad High Court. In the view of Lahore High Court, in the case of Khan Gul versus Lakha Singh, it was held that minor is absolutely liable to return benefit made fraudulently. A minor has to repay the money which he has taken. Okay, in Allahabad High Court's view, minor is not liable. They have followed the case of Leslie versus Shale, and they have held that minor is only liable to return property which can be traced and not the money. Okay, so they have relied on the case of Leslie versus Shale, which we have discussed above. So if we talk about the present position, Indian contract, the specific leaf act has been enacted in 1963 to deal with situation, and the section 33 of the provides that minor is liable to return the benefits if let's now talk about the minor's liability for necessaries supplied. Section 68 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 talks about claim for necessaries supplied to person incapable of contracting or on his account. If a person incapable of entering into a contract or anyone whom he is legally bound to support is supplied by another person with necessities suited to his condition in life, the person who has furnished such supplies is entitled to be reimbursed from the property of such incapable person. So this section covers a minor also. If we have supplied some thing which is necessary for the minor, necessary for the life of the minor, then we could recover the money uh, in that case. Okay, so what are necessaries? The necessaries has neither been defined in the legislation in the contract act or not in some judicial pronouncement, but it has to be seen as per the facts and circumstances of each of the case. So let's talk about the contract of service and the contract of apprenticeship. So, okay, so the contract of service is void in India, but the contract of apprenticeship is valid in India. Okay, so contract of service by minor is void. This has been held in the case of Rajrani versus Prem Adib. This is a very famous case and popular case. So in this case, contract of service on behalf of minor was held to be void, and in the same case it was observed that contract of apprenticeship by minor is valid as it is protected by apprenticeship act. So we can conclude that a contract by minor for service is void, while the contract for apprenticeship by minor or on behalf of minor is a valid contract. So if we talk about the contract beneficial to minors, so absolutely the contracts which are beneficial to minor are valid, and he can take the benefit of the contract. Okay, so let's understand this concept by a case. So in Great American Insurance Company versus Madan Lal, in this case, a guardian acting on behalf of his minor insured the minor's property to an insurance company against fire. So minor's property was destroyed by fire, and the defendant refused to pay the compensation amount to the minor because they said that they contended that the minor's agreement is absolutely void and they have no liability in this regard. It was held that minor was entitled to claim amount as a contract was for the benefit of the minor and hence valid. So in the subsequent case of Raghvacharya versus Srinivas AIR 1917, it was held that if there was a mortgage in favor of the minor, and he has advanced some money on that mortgage, then minor has the right to enforce the same. Okay, so if we talk about the position of a minor in partnership, then in case of partnership, minor cannot be a member of partner, but with the consent of all the existing partners, he could be appointed to take the benefit of the share. Okay, he can just take out the profit, but he cannot be made be a member. Okay, so on attaining majority, such minor has an option either to become a member of the partnership firm or to leave the firm. So let's talk about the position of a minor in contract of agency. So the position of a minor in contract of agency has been given under section 183 and 184 of the Indian Contract Act. A minor can appoint an agent, that is, he cannot be a principal. A minor cannot appoint an agent because if he cannot make a contract, then he cannot make it through an agent also. So he cannot become a principal. A minor cannot appoint an agent, but he could become an agent, but he will not be liable to the principal, as this uh, principle is given in section 184, that a minor can be an agent between the principal and third person, but he will not be responsible to principal as a contract is required between them, and minor is not competent to contract. That's why he cannot be made responsible to the principal. So if we talk about the minor's liability when same act results in tort as well as in the breach of contract, if a minor has made certain act, if he has done something which has resulted in contract as well as tort, then it has been held in many of the judicial decisions that uh, he will not be liable for such tort. If he is made liable for such tort, then he is considered to be made liable for those contracts which are just void. In Johnson versus Pye, a minor falsely stated that he was of the age of the majority and obtained a loan. He cannot be made liable for deceit under tort and cannot be made to repay the loan because it will enforce the contract. It will be like enforcing the contract against the minor which is void. In the case of Jennings versus Randall, in this case, a minor hired a mare of riding and injured her by overriding. It was held that he could not be made liable for negligence under tort because it would mean making him liable for the breach of contract of bailment. But if it is the condition that a tort committed is very different or is independent of the contract, then the liability of the minor will arise. If the case is such, the tort committed is very much different from the contract made, then the minor could be made liable. So let's understand this concept from a case in Bernard versus Haggis, the case of 1863. In this case, a minor hired a mare which was meant only for riding and not for jumping and larking. Minor used it for jumping means he has acted, beyond that contract, beyond the condition contained in that contract. So that person, that minor, would be liable here for the tort committed. Okay, for the tort committed of negligence. It was held that Minor was liable for negligently killing the mayor as his act was totally independent of the contract made by him. So in this video we have covered a lot of things about the minor. We have discussed about the nature of contract of minor, the position of a minor in partnership act, many other things. If you really like this video, please